Betrayal shattered the trust I thought was unbreakable. When I discovered my husband's secret second family, my world collapsed quietly. Not loudly, I left. Without screaming, but with every piece of me forever changed. I had assumed that betrayal would be a bolt of lightning, loud, fierce, impossible to ignore. But to me, it came as a soft whisper, a silent shift in the wind, so silent I hardly saw it. Had I not, I was 31 when I got married. I had spent my 20s working non-stop, building my career, caring for my parents, putting every want aside in hopes someone right would come along. And when he did appear, he didn't arrive in a grand gesture. He arrived quietly. A soft smile, a warm laugh. He was so grounded, so self-assured in what he sought. We talked books, family, vacations for hours our first night out. I remember thinking, this is the one. This is the kind of man you build your life with. And we did. Or at least, I believed we had. He was never flashy or excessively sentimental. He was just dependable. He brought me soup when I was sick. He remembered my mother's birthday. He'd always take my hand when we crossed the street, as if it was instinct. To all who were looking on, we were solid as rock. I knew it too. Even on the days he worked outside the house, often for stretches of time, I never questioned him. Maybe I should have. But when someone builds a foundation of trust so slowly, so painstakingly, it becomes your default setting. You don't question, you just feel safe. The first time that I ever sensed that something was not quite right was so subtle, so easy to dismiss. He came back from a trip and was unusually quiet, claimed he was tired. But when I went to hug him, the shirt smelled faintly of a baby lotion, the one I used to buy for my nephew. I kidded about it. So now you're snuggling random babies on planes. He laughed, but something about his eyes, a flicker that I couldn't pinpoint. I let it slip. I regret it. Months passed. Life moved on. We tried a baby unsuccessfully. It affected me in small ways. He was considerate, always telling me we had time, that we could try IVF or adoption if we wanted. But I started to sense gaps. Not just physical, but emotional. He'd zone out when we were speaking. Forget little things. He skipped our anniversary night once. Work stress. I trusted him. I always trusted him. Until one night, everything came apart. He had gone to bed early, his phone still charging on the counter. A text filled the screen. I wasn't snooping, I really wasn't. But it mentioned in the preview, "Can you pick them up tomorrow? They missed you today." My stomach twisted. My breath was caught. The names on the messages were strange. I picked up the phone, trembling hands, initiated the conversation. There it was, proof, pictures, voice messages, school schedules. A woman's voice calling him babe. 2 children, one addressing him as daddy. I stood there, paralyzed, reading messages that laid out a life in conjunction with mine. A life I knew nothing about. A birthday-filled life, school productions, and swimming lessons. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at home alone, wondering if he's away at the conference. I didn't accuse him that night. I couldn't. I entered the bathroom, closed the door, and vomited. My whole body shook. I remember sitting on the cold tile floor, staring at my reflection in the mirror, and saying to myself again and again, "No. Number, this isn't happening." But it was. I read each message for the next 3 days. Each photo. I screenshotted everything. It was like watching a movie about someone else's life. Only I was supposed to be the star, and instead I was just a shoddily built extra. I learned that he had started seeing this other woman 7 years ago, before me. That they had had a brief relationship. And then, after I had married him, he had gotten back with her. They had 2 children. 2. I'd spent years blaming myself for our inability to conceive, while he'd been playing house on the weekends with another family. When I finally had the courage to confront him, I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I sat facing him and simply said, "Tell me who she is." The color bled out of his face. He attempted to open his mouth, but nothing emerged. I shoved my phone down the table, open to the messages. "Don't lie, just tell me," he started to say, stumbling over it at first, attempting to explain that it wasn't like that, that it had started as a momentary slip and then got out of hand, that he didn't know how to make a choice, that he loved us both. I looked at him and thought, "You loved us both? Is that love?" Lying to someone's face when tucking your second child into bed on weekends. I did not cry in front of him. I did not give him that. I packed a suitcase one evening and I was gone. The following weeks were the blackest of my life. I moved in with a friend who asked few questions, just offered me tea and let me sleep. I barely ate. I avoided calls. My body functioned on autopilot, but my mind racked its about the same things over and over. How did I not see it coming? Was it all a deception? Why was I not good enough? I started going to a therapist 2 weeks later. I sat silently for most of the sessions initially. My therapist would tell me, "Take your time." Eventually, I started talking about how ashamed I was, how humiliated, not necessarily because he was unfaithful, but because I was so dumb enough to believe him, because I did not know who the man I married really was. The split was nasty, not in terms of the law. He did not fight it, but emotionally it ravaged me. People around me didn't know what to do with me. Some said, "You're lucky you knew this now." Others said, "How can you be so certain you didn't suspect?" That hurt the most. As if love is an affliction of blindness. As if I had failed for trusting. I thought about calling the other woman. I wrote and deleted a dozen messages. But I didn't. Not because I didn't care, I did. But because I knew, no matter what she said, it wouldn't fill the gaps within. It wouldn't wipe the lies away. For a while, I lost trust in love. Not even love, but in the belief that human beings could be real. I pulled away. I closed down social media. I went for hours a day just to feel something. And then, gradually, light crept back into my life. It crept in tiny increments. A coffee morning and no crying. A message from a friend that made me laugh. A book that I became obsessed with. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, incremental, but it was real. Eventually, I started creating a new life for myself, on my own terms. I acquired a new apartment, started painting again, took a solo trip. I reconnected with me, the me that had been way down deep under years of compromise and self-disappointments. And one day, I didn't feel like a victim anymore. I stopped identifying with what he did to me. I wasn't that woman whose husband had a double life. I was a survivor, a maker, a woman who had finally known she was worth it so much. No one could ever deceive her like that again. Do I ever think of him? Yes. The scars are there. Trust is not easy anymore, but I've accepted. He did what he did. I did what I did. If you're watching this and you've experienced something like this, listen when I tell you this. You're not stupid for loving. You're not weak for believing. Shame is not yours to own. Some people cover so well, even the sun can't shine through their deceit. But their dishonesty speaks not a word about your light. We mend in pieces. Although at some point those fragments become something greater than the broken pieces. Undefined. And from that, there is strength.